So we're going to talk about 5 key issues. When you think about these transactions, and you think about an inside transaction, which could be any one of those things, these are the 5 things I think you really got to start to get your head around to focus on. We're going to talk about each of these a little bit. So number 1, the exiting shareholder, financial picture, and risk tolerance. So why does it matter? Let's talk about it. Why is that such an important thing to start with? Why is it first on the list? Exactly. You know, valuation and all that stuff, technical stuff, it's on the list. But why is this first? Number 1, this person's got the stock, right? Got control. Unless this person gets their head around, you know, what they want to do, you know, you can do all the valuations you want. I learned this early on. I've been doing this work for, gosh, 12 years now, maybe 15 years. And I remember when I would go into one of these engagements and work with a family or a privately held company, you know, we'd go in, you know, financial person, we'd, you know, scrub the numbers and do all this financial stuff and sort of never get to the point of, you know, what are the emotional reasons, why or why not, and what are the financial reasons, why or why not. The senior generation family member, are they ready or not? And we learned that in not going there first, we ended up wasting a lot of time. It's a significant issue that if you're contemplating anything, whether you're the next generation coming along or you're the senior generation who's looking to exit, you got to get your head around a bunch of stuff. This situation is a very complicated position to be in if you're that exiting party. Number 1, you know, they got a lot of personal financial issues. Let me ask you, from a financial standpoint, what's the one thing that an exiting senior generation family member owner does not ever want to have to do after the transaction's over? What's the one thing they never want to have to come back and do?
Work again.
Work again? Work in that company, but what about, I'm talking about financially, I get that for sure, but financially speaking, put money back in or ask for money, right? I've done this so many times. The one thing, when I talk to people about the number and how much, they say, Mario, whatever we do, the one thing I do not want to do is when this is done, I never want to have to go back and ask my kids for money, ever. Like, I cannot have that be an issue. So whatever we do, build in, you know, some things to make sure that once it's done, I don't want to have to go back and ask for money. So the financial planning part of this is a pretty big deal. We often work on these with a financial planner. We don't do financial planning here. I mean, we do taxes and a bunch of other stuff, but you know, the whole thing about projecting your lifestyle, at least now we don't. We might be. But you know, all this life expectancy, if you have a good financial planning person that can help you figure out, okay, what's your lifestyle look like? How much money are you going to need? How does Social Security, all that stuff, right? You got to have a really clear picture about that. Because if the principal worry here is running out of money, it seems to me that the way to avoid that is to get the most data you can get on what you have and how long it's going to last, right? Build in some buffers. Don't cut it too tight. But, you know, this is a very big deal. So if you're that senior generation person trying to figure this out, it's not just about what the value of the company is. This is the first set of things you got to get your head around. How much do I need? What's my lifestyle look like? What's my spending rate look like? Right? You got to get your head around all those financial things. Secondly, family issues is another big component of this for the exiting party when it's a family business. There's usually a lot of stuff. We often work with a family consultant here where there is things going, or are things going on. Scott Hackman's here from the Family Business Center. We've been partners with Henry Landis, many of you know Henry and Sally, and now Scott's part of the organization. This is our 10th year. When there's a transaction that has some, you know, familial stuff going on with conflicts or, you know, they participate. they help straighten those things out if there's conflicts, and how do you deal with different kids and their roles, and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a situation ripe for conflict. And often, if you don't address that conflict, it gets in the way of this poor guy or gal making a decision because they're afraid, right? They love all their kids equally. Who would say that that's not a correct statement? Love all their kids equally. But maybe their kids aren't equal in terms of what they contribute to the business or what their roles should be. So to use an extreme example, the next generation CEO of the company makes $250,000 a year, and my other kid's the receptionist, and they make $250 because they're my kids and I love them equal. How's that sound? It's a true story. I know of a family company with 11 kids in the business, 11, and they all have the same pay. It's an absolutely true story. It's not one of my clients.
That's a fun Thanksgiving.
They all have the same pay, and one of the kids doesn't even work at the company.
Smart.
So without good counsel, without good counsel around your family structure of compensation and ownership, right? If you haven't gotten your head around that, it's going to slow this process down. I'm just telling you. You've got to engage that if it's a family business and you've got those kinds of issues. So that's something this person's got to deal with. There's a lot of emotion here, right? How long, this is a mortality, dealing with your own mortality. It's not a simple thing to contemplate, particularly those of us that like to work. Not everybody is looking forward to playing golf 6 days a week. Like people, there's I'd say a good number of our clients that they may not want to go at it as long and as hard as they have, but they like a place to hang their hat. They want to come in and take care of some business. They want to, they like the engagement of it, right? I would say actually that's more than half of the cases. They want to have some continued work life. They don't view this as a cliff they're jumping off of. But there's a lot of emotion involved in that. And you don't just decide on Monday when you turn 60 that you want to start thinking about it. You've got to start thinking about it ahead of time. And it's the rare case that the person can see it 10 years early. It takes a lot of effort and time to think through it. And then there's a lot of business issues, right? Are the next generation people ready? After all, if I leave and I'm going to be holding this note, am I confident that they're going to be able to pay me and run the business as well as I ran it? Right? So there's those kind of questions. So that's the reason this is first on the list. Because nothing happens unless this person gets their head around their issues. And it's not all money. Part of it's money. But you really got to get your head around it. Because this is the person in control. Right? This is why I had a meeting last week with an 85-year-old guy. He still has issues of control and things like that. So it's a big deal.